Hello students, I am Shenaz from LP Savani Vidya Bhavan. I am back with the next session of Standard 9 Science, a chapter from Biology, that is lesson number 5, the fundamental units of life. This chapter is about cell. In this chapter we will study following things. What is fundamental unit? What is cell? Who discovered cell? What is the cell made up of? We will also study about plasma membrane or cell membrane, cell wall, nucleus, cytoplasm. We will also study cell organelles and their functions in the cell, that is endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, mitochondria, plastids and vacuoles. This chapter is really interesting and you would really like to study something which is closely related to our body. So here we start our chapter. What is cell? I know students, you all are very curious to know about this cell. You have heard this word many times, but what is actually cell? Now, as you know, a building is made up of what? It is not one piece. A building is made up of, thousands of bricks. All the bricks joined together and a huge structure of building is made. In the same way, in the previous chapter we have studied about matter. We have studied that matter is not made up of a single block, but it is made up of so many tiny particles. In the same way, all the living organisms are made up of identical tiny structures, that is called cell. Now, you must be very curious to know that if we watch any organism, we cannot see each cell separately. Then who discovered the cell and how this concept came into existence? So don't worry, I am going to explain you that now. Okay, so who discovered cell? So in 1965, a scientist named Robert Hooke, he was examining a slice of cork. Cork is a substance which is present in the bark of tree. He was examining a slice of cork under a very primitive microscope, and he found a structure like honeycomb, which consists of many small compartments or rooms. So Robert Hooke was very curious to know that what are these compartments. So he called these compartments as cell. Then he examined number of different cells, and he found that all the living organisms are made up of cell. Now, when he made this discovery, at that time very primitive type of microscopes were there. Actually, Hooke made this observation through self-designed microscope. He himself designed the microscope and observed the slice of cork, and this way he discovered that this cork is made up of so many tiny rooms like structures, and then he named these structures as cell. Actually, in Latin language, the word cell means compartment or room. When Robert Hooke first time observed cell, it was through handmade or self-designed microscope. But nowadays students see such compound microscopes are there, and through these compound microscopes we can magnify the object so many times. I mean, you can see even a very tiny particle through this magnifying through the magnifying lenses of this compound microscope. We will just see the parts of compound microscope. You can see at the top, this is eyepiece, then body tube, then revolving nose piece, then objectives. You can see the stage, condenser, substage, mirror, base, then coarse adjustment knob, fine adjustment knob, inclination joint. Okay, so these are the parts of compound microscope. This coarse adjustment knob and fine adjustment knobs are adjusted to magnify and see the slide properly. Then this mirror is adjusted so that light focus on the slide properly, and whatever is kept under the microscope is visible properly. These microscopes are used in different laboratories to examine very microscopic particles. Now, when Robert Hooke observed cell, he was able to observe only the outline of the cell, and that is why through his microscope the cells were looking like honeycomb, that is little compartments, small rooms, because only outline of cell was visible. But when we actually observe the cell through compound microscope, even the things which are present inside the cells are also visible. That we will study in the later part of the chapter. See students, this shows the actual picture of compound microscope, how it looks. Right? Through this microscope, many observations are done, and many microscopic things are seen and studied. Now, students, I'll explain you an experiment. We can actually see the cell of onion through microscope. For this, let us take a small piece from an onion bulb. With the help of a pair of forceps, we can peel off the skin from the concave, that is inner side of the onion. This layer can be put immediately in a watch glass containing water so that it does not dry. This will prevent the peel from getting folded or getting dry. Now, let us take a glass slide. Put a drop of water on it and transfer a small piece of onion peel from watch glass to glass slide. Make sure that the peel is perfectly flat, that is, it is not folded. Then a thin camel hair paint brush might be necessary to help transfer the peel. Now we can put few drops of safranin. Safranin is a stainer because we need to stain the cell so that we can observe its parts and outlines clearly, because otherwise everything is very transparent. So nothing is visible without stainer. So we use safranin solution as a stainer. Now we have prepared a temporary mount of onion peel. That is, we have prepared a slide of onion peel. Now we can observe this slide under microscope. When we observe this slide under microscope, it looks something like this. You can see the cells, that is outline of cells, and inside the cell there is a dark dot like something, that is nucleus. Now between nucleus and the boundary of the cell, a fluid is present which is known as cytoplasm. So this is how cells look. When we observe our skin under microscope, same type of structure is visible. Even our skin is made up of different types of cells. So students, through the slide you have seen that what is cell. Now you can see in the slide that the structures of cell, they look similar. Together they form a big structure like an onion bulb. In the same way, all organisms are made up of cells. Now, some organisms are made up of only single cell, that is only one cell. Such organisms are known as unicellular organisms. In unicellular organisms, all the functions are performed by only single cell, that is excretion, respiration, transportation, all these functions are performed by only a single cell. And such organisms are known as unicellular organisms, and examples are amoeba, paramecium and bacteria, and there are so many other organisms also. Now, whichever organisms which we see around us are mostly multicellular organisms, like animals, plants, insects, human beings, and there are so many living organisms around us are made up of more than one cell, and such organisms are known as multicellular organisms. In multicellular organisms, all cells are not of same kind. The body of multicellular organisms are made up of different cells, and the different cells perform different functions in their body. Even the shape and size of the cells are different. They are related to the specific function they perform. Now, you know, how do we grow? When we are small, our body is small. It means it is made up of less number of cells. Then we grow up. So what is this growth actually? Actually, when the cell multiply in our body, that is new cell forms in our body, we start growing. Now this new cells are produced actually from pre-existing cells only. Now as I told you that new cells are produced from pre-existing cell. It means cell divide to produce cells of their own kind. Now every multicellular organism has come from a single cell. Now this single cell divide and a number of cells are produced and a multicellular organism is produced. Now as I told you, there are different types of cells in our body. Now we will see the type of cell present in human body. They are different, their shape and size are different, and the structure is different, and so their functions are also different. You can see these cells, that is muscle cells, blood cells, nerve cell, sperm cell, skin cell, and there are so many types of cell in our body. Now you can see the difference in their shape and size also. So there are some basic things which are similar in all the cells, but it may the cell may differ in their shape and size and their functions also. Now cell is known as structural and functional unit of life. Now in the beginning of the chapter, as I told you that brick is a structural unit of, you can say, a building. In the same way, cell is the structural unit of our body, or body of any living organism, because every living organism is made up of cell, either it is a single or multi. Now if we talk about multicellular organism, you know, there are groups of cell form a tissue, group of tissue form organ, and group of organ form organ system. Now in our body, these organs perform different functions, like heart is responsible for circulation of blood, kidney is responsible for purification of blood, our digestive system has a function to digest our food. In the same way, different organs perform different functions. In the same way, each cell is made up of different organelles. Like our body is made up of different organ system, and there is, you can see, a division of labor in this organ system. Like each organ system is allotted some specific work. In the same way, inside the cell also there are some organelles which are responsible for specific function which is happening inside the cell, and so the cell is called structural unit of life. In the same way, every cell has a capacity to perform functions such as nutrition, respiration, excretion, etc. And it can be done by single cell. A cell itself is capable of performing all this function, and therefore the cell is also called functional unit of body. So a cell is structural unit because every structure is made up of cell or number of cells, and each cell is capable of performing all the basic functions within itself, and so it is called functional unit of the body. Now we have already seen that there are different types of cell, but when different types of cells are observed under microscope, three features are common in all the cell, that is plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. Now all the activities inside the cell and interaction of cells with its environment are possible due to these three features. All activities inside the cell and interaction of the cell with its environment are due to these features, that is plasma membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm. Now let us see how it is possible. We will start with plasma membrane, or it is also known as cell membrane. Now it is the outermost covering of the cell. It means it is present on the outermost part of the cell, and it separates the content of the cell from its external environment. Now this plasma membrane is a very special kind of membrane. It allows the entry and exit of some material in and out of the cell. But at the same time, it also prevents the movement of some other material. It means it allows only selected material to enter or exit from the cell. That is why plasma membrane is also known as selectively permeable membrane. Movement of material into the cell. Now in previous chapter, that is first chapter of chemistry, we have studied that substances move from higher concentration to lower concentration, and the best example is the incense stick. When it is burned, or when it is lighted, the smell spreads in the whole room. That is, where the incense stick is burned, there the concentration of smell is very high, so it start moving to the other part of the room where its concentration is less. In the same way, if we take a glass of water and we put few drops of ink, slowly the ink spread throughout the glass. It means where the concentration of ink is less, the ink particles will start moving, and this process is known as diffusion. So in the cell also, movement of the material, or you can say movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide, takes place by the process of diffusion. What is the definition of diffusion? Diffusion means movement of substances from higher concentration to lower concentration. Now we will first talk about movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide gas. Now inside the cell, when waste material is collected, it means carbon dioxide is collected, what will happen? Actually, carbon dioxide is a cellular waste, and which required to be excreted out of the cell. So when this carbon dioxide waste is collected, accumulated inside the cell, the concentration of carbon dioxide inside the cell will be high compared to the outside environment. And so by the process of diffusion, the carbon dioxide will move from the higher concentration, that is from inside the cell, to the lower concentration, that is outside the cell. In this way, movement of carbon dioxide takes place. As soon as there is difference in the concentration of carbon dioxide inside and outside a cell, CO2 move out of the cell. Now, when the concentration of inside and outside the cell becomes same, then the movement stops. In the same way, oxygen enters the cell by the process of diffusion. When the level of oxygen inside the cell becomes low and when the level of oxygen outside the cell is high, oxygen diffuses in the cell. So in this way we can say the cell breathe and do the process of excretion. So that was about movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen in and out of the cell. But how movement of water takes place in and out of the cell? So the movement of water takes place by the special diffusion process, which is known as osmosis. The definition of osmosis is the movement of water molecule takes place into the cell by the process of osmosis and through semi-permeable membrane. Actually, we know that plasma membrane is semi-permeable membrane. It allows only selected substances to pass through it. That's why it is called semi-permeable membrane. So the movement of water is also affected by the material dissolved in it. So movement of water is done by the process of osmosis. So wherever the concentration of water is high, from that region water molecules will move to the region where the concentration of water is less. Now this we will actually try to understand by a very simple experiment.
I'm sure your answer will be a cell. Now to study this, we need to study every component present within. And not only within, we even need to study the covering, that is this part, in detail. Now can you tell me what exactly is this named as? That's right, it's called the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. In our previous video, we have learned that the cell membrane is selectively permeable in nature. That is, it only allows specific materials to enter and leave the cell. Any guesses what is the plasma membrane made up of? The plasma membrane is made up of lipids and proteins and also has some carbohydrate chains. There are two things that freely move in and out of the cell. Those include gases and water. Do you think these molecules need energy for traveling across the membrane? Let's take a simple example to understand what exactly happens in this case. We know what happens when a drop of ink is added to a glass of water. The single dark-colored ink drop spreads when added to water and the intense blue color fades slightly. If we see at the molecular level, then the ink molecules, which are compactly packed in the single drop, get a chance of dispersing in a larger area when added to the water. This is nothing but the process of diffusion. And we know that this dispersal process does not require energy. The molecules just try to move freely in the space available, and as a result, diffusion occurs. The same story is seen when gas or water molecules travel across the membrane. Take carbon dioxide for example. When cells undergo cellular respiration, a lot of carbon dioxide accumulates in the cell. On the other hand, there is very little carbon dioxide present outside the cells. Hence, the carbon dioxide molecules move outside the cells. Now, there is very little oxygen left after respiration in the cells. So the oxygen from outside the cells moves in through the plasma membrane to make up for the lost oxygen. That means carbon dioxide moves out and oxygen moves in. Both the gases move from their area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. And this diffusion process does not require energy. Diffusion is one of the processes by which.
Now students, by this video you have understood how diffusion takes place in cell and how movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place inside and outside the cell. Now in the same way, how movement of water takes place. Water also moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. When water moves from inside the cell to outside, the cell will shrink, and when the water will move from outside to inside, the cell will swell. Now I will show you one more activity, a video in which you can nicely understand the process of osmosis, and you can repeat the same activity by taking raisins and soak it in a glass of water. When you soak dry raisins in a glass of water, after 1 or 2 hours, when you will observe it, what will you see? You will see that raisins will swell. How it will swell? The water concentration outside the raisin, that is in the glass, is more. So water will enter in the raisin and it will swell. In the same way, when you put the swollen raisin in the glass of sugar solution, what will happen? Actually, in the sugar solution, concentration of water is less compared to the concentration of water which is present inside the swollen raisin. So water will move from the raisin to outside the raisin, and so the raisins will shrink. And on the basis of this transportation of water, the solutions are of 3 types, that is hypotonic solution, hypertonic solution and isotonic solution. Let us study these 3 types of solution through the video.
Osmosis.
water also obeys the law of diffusion. The movement of water molecules through such a selectively permeable membrane is called osmosis. Thus, osmosis is the passage of water from a region of high water concentration through a semi-permeable membrane to a region of low water concentration. What will happen if we put an animal cell or a plant cell into a solution of sugar or salt in water? Something will obviously happen. One of these three things could happen. First, if the medium surrounding the cell has a higher water concentration than the cell will gain water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as a hypotonic solution. Water molecules will pass freely across the cell membrane. Thus, the cell swells up. Second possibility is that if the medium has exactly the same water concentration as the cell, there will be no net movement of water across the cell membrane. Such a solution is known as isotonic solution. Now it's not that water is not crossing here at all. In fact, water crosses the cell membrane in both directions. But the amount going in is the same as the amount going out. So there is no overall movement of water. The cell will stay the same size. There is a third possibility also. If the medium has a lower concentration of water than the cell will lose water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as a hypertonic solution. And this will lead to shrinking of the cell. Now let us try this out by the following activity.
So students, here we end our today's session. See you next time. Bye bye. Take care.